My name is Aswa Khan. I'm 27 years old. I went to LUMS for my undergrad, and I've majored in anthropology and sociology, and I have a minor in psychology. After graduating, I was working for SDPI and working on projects with the UN, and then I moved to Karachi, where I took up doing therapy with children on the autistic spectrum. And then COVID started, and I ended up starting my group. And that's just the chronology of how things have happened. Community kind of just then took a shape of its own, and it became what it is today, which is a platform where people come and just share things, whatever they have that they don't need. They come and they put them up for no money. So the principle is always going to be buy nothing. It's not done for money. Um, and in case if somebody wants something that's maybe not available in the market or hard for them to find, or just, it's better to consume secondhand for the environment and for you financially. So they can come up on the platform and they can ask for things. So it grew within 2 years. We're now at about around 20, less than 25,000 people. And in all this time, I realized that there was a gap because there were a lot of people who wanted to give things, but it was very hard for them to find a way to do it. So I started doing collections also from all over Karachi. I would go around and we do collection drives where anytime somebody wanted to give away something, but they didn't have the time to take pictures and coordinate deliveries on the group, I would pick them up and then I would put them on the group myself. And doing that, we ended up with, I think, about 800 kilos of stuff, which was pretty difficult for me to single-handedly manage myself. And out of all of that, so then we made a bunch of charity partners. We gave to Akwat, ED, Selani, Alamgir, TCF, and Aisha Chundigar Foundation, ACF. So we donated more than 500 kgs of stuff over the past year, probably more than that. And whatever was left over, in the sense that I always kind of divided the stuff between donations, discarding, and putting on the group. So whatever needed to be discarded was discarded, whatever could be donated was donated, and then whatever was left was put on the group. So eventually what ended up happening was we had a lot of stuff, and it was getting hard to give it away from just the platform. So we held an open house event also, which was a one of a kind event. I've never seen another event done like that, in the sense that the ticket price was 1,000, and you could come in and take any 15 items in that price. Nothing was individually sold. So you had 15 items, you could take anything in that 1,000 rupees, and people ended up walking out with things like a brand new comforter still in its packaging, along with 14 other things, um, for barely any money. And the response we received on that was amazing. So just to summarize, I guess when you ask me what is ZAS now, it started off as something else, but it's become an entity on its own. It's become a platform, and the driving force behind them it's not me as much as it is our members. Because initially I was running the show, I was putting up a lot of things, but this past few months, primarily it's been the community that's done the exchanging and the transactions. So
Yeah, I am on the group, and it's amazing how the people are all ready to help and communicate with each other. It's amazing.
I was honestly very surprised and amazed, because when I started out, everybody told me like you can try it, but this is not. यहाँ पे लोग इस तरह फ्री में चीजें नहीं देते. Nobody leaves anything outside their house for you to just take, so it's not going to work. And I did have that in my head that maybe how far we can go might be capped due to that mindset where we just don't do these things. But I've been very pleasantly surprised with how responsive the community has been and how quickly they've learned and adapted to kind of the procedures on the group. Because there's no other Facebook group, at least there wasn't when we started, that was doing this. So initially, like, just kind of getting used to the idea that yeah, this is something that's been done, but people got used to it pretty fast. And I'm honestly, like, I'm nothing without the community. So my favorite thing about the group is that it cuts across social classes. I've got people from my social class who have a lot more things to give away, for example. And then we have girls who are working in salons on the group. We've got Kia riders on the group. We've got students who are on financial aid on the group. So it cuts across all tiers of society, which is why it works. Because if it was just people who wanted something and nobody to give away, or if it was just people giving away and no one to take, it would not work. Baby items, either baby items or women's clothing. So there are many success stories actually. I I think giving away, like, I think donating the amount of stuff we've donated is definitely a success story. We've helped with setting up schools. Um, in terms, we've helped set up libraries. We helped set up a daycare. We helped set up a home gym. We donated a PlayStation to a children's um, psychiatric ward. So we've done a lot of these little things. The community is really pulled in together, and we helped set up someone's house this one time, someone who left their abusive household and they had nothing. We got them a bed and a couch and a place. So we've done a lot of. I mean, there's if you ask me, have you ever done something so big that it's been in the news or something? No, that's not the kind of success that we have achieved. But I genuinely believe that these little things that we've done show that it works, and they are their own form of success. So
And the things that you're saying that you've done, they're not small things at all. They're huge in their own sense.
I'm
And it's
honestly
amazing.
quite proud of a few of them. I can send you a screen. Sure. So the first two rules are no buying and no selling. So if someone's put up something, you can't just comment and say, "Oh, give it to me, I'll pay you for it." That's not on. And you also can't sell on the group. You're not allowed to inbox members without their permission. So if someone's posted something, you're not allowed to bombard them in their inbox. You comment on the post, and then if they want to give it to you, they'll inbox you themselves. The group does not allow financial help because it's very hard for me. So as the admin, and as I guess the only person that runs this group, people expect that I will verify cases when someone's asking for help, financial help on the group, but I can't personally verify any of those. So when we don't allow financial help, but there have been special cases where we have kind of pooled together money for people, but those are very rare. Um, you're not allowed to put up posts without pictures. You have to include pictures in your post, especially if you're giving something away. If it's a food item, you have to mention the expiry date and the quantity and when it was opened. You have to mention your city in every single post because people will post with things like DHA Phase 5, and there's a DHA Phase 5 all over the country at this point. So it gets very
Ah.
confusing. Um, Other than that, what are the other rules? I think that's about it. And then there are different rules for
Mhm.
exchanges. So exchanges are a different procedure. There are giveaways, and then there's a barter, which is an exchange basically where you put up something that you have and you're willing to exchange it, swap it with someone for something else.
Mhm.
So the rules for those are a little
Mhm.
different, but
I mean, know a bit
all of
about
these rules
those
still
rules
apply to
as
the
well.
exchanges.
Sorry.
Yeah, so for the exchanges, you have to use the correct hashtag. The hashtag is basically the name of your city and
Mhm.
exchange. So it would be, for example, hashtag Karachi
Okay.
exchange. And you have to mention the condition of the item that you want to exchange.
Mhm.
Plus, you have to mention what you want to exchange
Mhm.
with. And that's about it. But there are implicit rules where I, because the primary purpose of the group is not bartering, it's not
Mhm.
exchanging, um, I don't approve a lot of exchange posts. For me, I think I prioritize items that are brand new
Mhm.
or people who urgently need to swap for something else. Or this one time we got this post about how someone was willing to swap, I guess, their clothes for a bit of ration for the month, which nobody, like everybody just gave away.
Mhm.
Nobody wanted to
Mhm.
take anything from her for that. So the exchanges are more kind of dependent on how I feel about it,
Mhm.
and I approve or don't approve.
Okay.
So Ziyada Aasani say if you shorten it, like it's ZAS, ZAS.
Mhm.
So when my husband and I started together, our initials, his name's Zen,
Mhm.
so he was ZA
Okay.
and I was AS. So I put those two together and
Oh.
I was just like, okay, ZAS. Now, what do I make it stand for? So I came up with the initials before I came up with the name. And Zada Asani says just felt like a right fit because I didn't want to limit with the name what the community could grow into.
Mhm.
I didn't want to just call it like a giveaway or a swapping platform.
Mhm.
This allows me to take it anywhere I want to take it.
Ah.
And the whole purpose of the group, the community, was to get things done easier. So my primary kind of when I started class, it was during COVID, right at the beginning of COVID, and this was when when lockdowns were all over the city and pretty much all over the country, and people were still going to work. तो 6 बजे दुकानें बंद हो रही थी 6 बजे लोग घर आ रहे थे it was impossible for them to go out and get things online deliveries also if you're not at home you can't receive them so just for the smallest things like a laptop charger or a phone charger or a plug or something people were waiting five days कि Saturday को जाएंगे store से लेके आएंगे and in that time funny enough my whole life like I never so I saw growing up initially how my parents were kind of close with our neighbors, and then over time we kind of all just drifted apart, and nobody's close to their neighbors anymore, at least not in the
Mhm.
community that I live in. And suddenly, because everything else was closed, people were knocking up on their neighbors' doors and going, "Oh, hello, I need something." So that kind of community came back, and it was necessary that we had some place to urgently jaake, like even small things like Panadol chahiye to that's kind of how it started. So I guess COVID really did feed into me deciding this is what I want to start. So,
So.
I mean, for I guess firstly the proof for the I guess the concept would be in the amount of posts that we get in a month and the number of people that are on the group and the number of requests we get every day to join the group. Um, But more than that, I guess the best thing that I've noticed, and honestly, initially I used to get a little annoyed because I started noticing that on other groups, which were not Zada Asani se, people were posting because Zada Asani se doesn't allow anonymous posts. So we don't allow anonymous posts because I genuinely feel like there's no shame in asking for something. and I really push that on my group. So I don't want people to have to hide behind anonymous profile. But what I noticed was in other groups that allow anonymous posts, like other bigger all women groups, people were asking for things anonymously, and other people were responding, even though those people were not familiar with the culture that we were trying to create and promoting, they were still responding. So that just showed that there is something there, that it's a concept that people can easily pick up on. And secondly, then I noticed that other groups started doing this. So there was this other group that right after we started Ziyada Aasani se started doing freebie Fridays, where they just the members would come up every Friday and they would put up whatever they wanted to give away. And initially I did get a little irritated because I was just like, I mean, let me try and do it. But then I took it as a sign of, something like the ripple effect. Something was growing, and it was growing beyond what I was trying to do, and that just made me happy because it's a positive kind of change to put forward. So it didn't matter anymore. And that, I guess, more than at looking at the group, because initially the group was me and my friends and a bunch of like their friends kind of exchanging like PlayStation games and stuff. And then it became this big huge thing. And honestly, like I don't know if I have done something to make it happen, but I do know that there's a big room for it in the community, and people are very, very responsive to the idea if you just leave it out there. Just that there is absolutely no shame in using something secondhand. There is, and it's not about if you can afford something new or not. It's about thinking about the amount of resources that are sucked out of our environment to make just one more thing, right? So one more tire, one more car, it's still taking resources, and these are big things. So when we can't cut back on those, but what we can cut back on are the everyday things. And there are so many everyday things that you can use secondhand, and it doesn't make you smaller. It really does not. And I guess that's the takeaway. Like throughout every class in this society, I have seen that there is an appreciation for secondhand items. I have seen that there is a recognition amongst people कि थोड़ी सी इस्तेमाल करके चीज खराब नहीं हो जाती. It can still be passed forward. It can still be given to somebody else who can make use of it. And I guess the biggest thing for me in doing all of this has been when I started out, everybody used to say कि पाकिस्तान में ऐसा नहीं होता. And I can proudly say now, nahi, Pakistan mein aisa hota hai. I've done it, I've seen it, I've created it, and it's gone beyond what I wanted to do with it, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But we need to stop looking at our country with that mindset where we think, nahi, hamare log to aise karte hi nahi hai, or it's too civilized a concept for this society. That's really messed up. Our people are very capable and very open, and we are one of the most charitable nations in the world. And Pakistan में ऐसा होता है, actually होता है. And and I guess lastly I would say there was a big need because there are a lot of people that I know personally, for example, who would not go to a charity house for something that they need. They would not go and pick up clothes from ED, even if they're struggling, because there's that concept of safed poshi, or just self-sufficiency. And it feels degrading for people to go and pick out charity bins. But there is a whole class of people that really do need that kind of help. And the group has done a lot to help those people out. And I guess there's not a lot of other things, other places that look out for that group of people. So